everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies, and today we are doing episode 5 from Masterchef season 13.
State Fair Food. These episodes have titles, and, they're not really important at all, so...
Well, in this case it is, I guess. If you've been to a fair, and you know what you're doing.
What?
Well, anyway...
It's not important. It's like, this is season 13, episode 5. Who cares about the title?
Well, so today was the day that this was the start of the competition. They picked all the people from all of the different regions. The Northeast, the Midwest, the South, and the West. And now, today, the real competition begins. So what they will do is they'll pick an outstanding dish, they get an immunity pin, and then for this episode, because I don't think they will do this for the rest of the season, or how many more times they will do it, but the person who wins the immunity pin, which is an actual metal pin that they pin on their apron, they will win immunity for their whole region. Okay, even if some of the other dishes in the regions sucked, they will still win the pin for the whole immunity for this week from anybody being sent home. Okay, and so we will begin with what? The outstanding dishes and then the crappy dishes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was a good idea for an episode at least. And it was surprising that this is what they started with.
Yeah.
Safi.
Okay, well, let me see. Well, from the Northeast, they picked the lady who is married, and she's from Maine. And so, in Maine, what do they have? Lobster, some kind of fish. So she made a fish sandwich. There was more to it than that.
It was cod, Safi.
Cod. I just can't...
Which I'm not a fan of.
I'm not a fan of cod either, so it's hard for me to even say that anybody makes cod because, ew, I don't like it. It's too thick. And anyway, she did a good job. She made kind of a meal, so I think there was some kind of vegetable and then something else.
There was a chip. Homemade chips.
Homemade chips. So, she made it would be something you would get at a fair. And she said if you were in Maine, that you would get, probably that's what they would have at the fair, would be some kind of fish meal. And so I would expect that to be, I've never been to a fair in Maine or out that way, but I imagine she knows what she's doing. So she did a good job. And do you want to talk about the South or the Midwest? I guess the one from the South was the second one, and that was the New Orleans lady.
She made fried chicken with deconstructed hot sauce and garlic mashed potato. And I thought this is kind of bizarre because, to me, all that deconstructed hot sauce was salsa.
Yeah, it wasn't.
That's what it is.
It was a regular meal you get at home.
It's spicy salsa. So
I don't think you'd get that at a fair. But I don't know. Some of these people, nobody really talked about it. It's not really... They want to just talk about the dishes, which is as it should be. But I don't think some of them really go to the fair. And
a lot of them don't. And it's too bad. It's too bad we didn't really get to see all of the dishes, because I think it would have been glaringly obvious who has gone to a fair and who hasn't.
Marco used to be in 4-H, so we went to the fair, the county fair, at least every year. My other son was in 4-H club too, so we went to the fair for his exhibits, and we also went to the state fair. So we have been to a lot of fairs, so you can kind of tell just by what they chose to cook, even if they were from a different region, whether they've been to a fair or not. I could just tell, and I think Marco could too. So, especially since the last time we went, we purposely went and got fair food to try. We got home. We decided we'd do a fair food video or something.
It was a commentary.
Yeah, but it was
4-hour movie.
It was, they have. So anyway, you can tell that, and I don't think this lady had ever been to a fair in her life.
There was an ant.
We have these ants that come in from the outside, and they show up and they're annoying. Okay, well, who is next? Well, we have the guy from Kansas City, which...
he made lobster fries.
Which is really, it was pieces of lobster that were shaped like fries, but he wasn't trying to make like French fries. He was just shaping them in a unique, different way that was looked like fat French fries, but they were lobster. And then he had a little, like a slaw with it, and which would be something that would go with it. And they're having a cow, because they're thinking, this guy, lobster's very hard to cook and make like this, because it can dry out or be stringy or something. They just were having a fit, so they expected it to fail. And personally, I'm from Kansas City, and to get lobster for any meal anywhere, it's flown in from the East Coast. And my God, Kansas City is a beef place, brisket, barbecue. And so to lobster, for this guy to cook what he said he was going to cook, was amazing if it worked out. And
I did not think it would work out either.
Everybody expected it to fail, I think. So, and then we have one more from the West. And it was a guy, there's out west in California, especially, I don't know if this guy's from California or not.
Safi, he's from Oregon.
Oh, okay. Well, out west, they have big mushroom farms. And they have mushroom fairs. And so this guy kind of made a part beef, part mushroom burger. He mixed in the mushroom, and he used some kind of powder, which they thought he was going to fail too, because something about this powder doesn't...
It's very rich.
It's very hard to work out. I don't know what they're talking about, but anyway, they were very doubtful about him too.
And I wasn't really that doubtful, because I just thought, it seems like a typical Western dish, so, it wasn't very hard to believe that he would be able to do that.
And there are two other things. I'm sorry, I've had this nagging cough. Well, one thing was, the burger was part beef, so guess what it had to be? It had to be medium rare.
Yeah.
So, of course, what's the first thing they do?
Is it going to look pink on the inside?
Yeah, just so annoying. So, anyway, they look at that, and that was just fine, and then they tried it, and they all liked it. So, these were the what would you call it? The best dishes from each region that, you're hurting me.
I thought that the mushroom burger would win, because it seemed the most like the thing that
you would get at the fair,
that they would like, the judges. But no.
This would be something you would get at a fair too in California, I would think, or no, Oregon, or either one actually.
But no, the Kansas City guy with the lobster fries won.
I think because he really surprised them.
Really,
and I was doubtful too, because of where he's from, and that is not something you eat in Kansas City or that you order, because it's flown in. There's no ocean close by, and it's a barbecue and a beef place for the most part. So he won. So he got immunity for his whole, like I said, he got the immunity pin for himself. That means next week he won't have to be, he will have immunity. And then for this week, his whole region, which is the Midwest, has immunity too.
And that meant somebody that's not from the Midwest, he got immunity as well.
And that was our little fellow friend from Columbus, who he wants to be a chef and not be an executive anymore. And he threw off his jacket at the last time when they tried out to show that he was ready to be a chef. What does he make? He makes pumpkin risotto. And if you know anything about cooking risotto, which we do because Marco has tried it, you have to nurse it. So can you imagine going to the fair and you're standing in line for your food and you're waiting for some jerk to spend 45 minutes stirring risotto and pumpkin risotto.
Well, I guess like the risotto part is the elevation part, and then the pumpkin part is from the fair. But that was the weird thing, is like you never get that at a fair.
No.
And
no risotto of any kind.
You could just tell, like, you could just tell that he was gonna do a bad job.
And they were all, like I said, whenever they if they have doubts, they don't have any qualms about hiding it. They were doubtful, and both Marco and I were doubtful too. He said, what was the name of the town in Ohio?
Circleville,
which we've never been there. It's probably over by Columbus somewhere, that they have every fall. Instead of, for like a fall festival, they have a pumpkin festival. Here in this area, they have a strawberry festival. They have popcorn festivals, but this is a pumpkin festival. It's in the fall, of course. And so I thought it was stupid. I just thought it was the dumbest thing. And it didn't turn... He even said, I'm probably going to get in trouble because it's not really ready. It's still crunchy. I'm like, oh my God. Is he kidding me? But since the Kansas City guy won, and for some reason they lumped Ohio into the Midwest, which we're in Eastern Standard Time, so I don't get that at all. He got immunity from being sent home this week, and he's lucky because he probably would have gotten sent home.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I guess now let's talk about the dishes that didn't make it. In other words, they were really bad, and the people who made them were in danger of going home. So I think they had 3 here, right? And the first one was a guy from Mississippi who looks like he could shoot daggers at you if he disagrees with what you say. He has mean eyes when he gets mad. He made weird assortment of food, but I didn't think it was bad, really, as bad as what the other 2 were. But he made kebabs, croquettes, and bacon-wrapped asparagus, which kind of, I don't think they go together.
It just seemed like a dish that you'd find on some random generic cooking website. Like, yeah. Ooh, look, here's this 4-star dish that 3 people have made, and they've all said it's pretty good. And it's like, it looked exactly like that.
And what happened was, and I don't remember which one it was either the croquettes or the kebabs. I think it might have been the croquettes. One of them was not seasoned at all. And Arun was not happy because he said that it was very un-Southern-like. And, of course, guys from Mississippi, and how Southern can you get? And that's Mississippi. And so they weren't happy about it. And the way the 3 things, they didn't go together, really. It was just, I don't think the guy's been to any fair either. So, if he'd made maybe the kebabs or something, and then a little slaw or some kind of a corn thing to go with it, that might have been better. But what he put together, and then one of them wasn't seasoned, I mean, that's like a huge no-no. Okay, the next one, okay, we have these kebab. So that guy was in danger of going home.
Not really.
Well, he was one of the 3 that they picked.
You knew he wasn't going to go home.
Well, considering who they picked. And then there were 2 other people, and the things they made, I mean, you could just tell. one of them was going home. And this guy was in less of a danger because even though he had three things, didn't go together, but at least two out of the three things were okay. It was the third one that wasn't seasoned that disturbed the judges quite a bit. Then you have Richie. And Richie, I think, was from the West. And he made... No?
From the Northeast.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I didn't put down.
That's where he's from, Safi.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah, that's where he's from.
So anyway, he made these things, let's say they're called cheesecake bites. And you know when these people...
And it was deconstructed cheesecake as well.
Right. So you're not talking about a cheesecake. You know how at the store you can buy these little cheesecakes? They're like, oh God, what about maybe 2-3 inches diameter? And they're smaller in a little metal tin maybe. They weren't even, they were like, I'm talking about hors d'oeuvre sized, which was really small. And it was like, you know how these chefs put these dots of sauce, which absolutely drives me insane, on their plates? These were like enlarged dots, only they were pieces of cheesecake. He made that.
With the crumble.
Yeah.
So, and then a little fruit thing. A little fruit blob.
Yeah. And it was not something you get at a fair, so it's obvious that this guy has probably never been to a fair in his life, because you wouldn't serve this to anybody. It's just, it wasn't a meal, and Joe said it was something that was a topping for an ice cream. That's what he called it. So, but I think what saved him was the flavor, because they loved the flavors were really good, and he even said that before he brought it to the judges. He said, the plating's not good, but he said, I think the flavors might save me. And he was right, because it did. Okay, well, the last one, which was another, I just don't get this. And even the Kansas City guy remarked, why would you make tacos for Arun? And we mentioned this earlier, on an earlier episode. You don't make tacos for Arun unless you know exactly what you're doing, because he will destroy you. And so you have this woman, and she's from the West, and she made 2 fish tacos because she said you go to any fair in California, I guess, or wherever, and you would find tacos. And
which I don't know, it's like I saw you-know-who, Chauncey, he went to the fair multiple times in California, and I didn't see tacos everywhere. I saw fair food, like a fried steak, fried candy bar, fried this, fried that. I didn't see any tacos.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think...
I'll show you, too. I have proof.
Well, when we went to the fair, I don't remember any kind of taco. If there was, it would have been a beef taco. I don't think it would have been a fish taco. But anyway, she also homemade the tortillas, which was a mistake unless they're perfect. And she said, I've never done this before. And I guess I shouldn't have made something that I'd never done before. Well, yeah, I guess not. And so she made she had 2 fish tacos. And the tortillas were just laid flat out. It wasn't even in a taco shape. They were just laid out like tortillas. And with the fish stuff was on each one, and they each had 2 different kinds of sauces. Well, Gordon, his remark was, this really looks sad. And Arun was like, he decimated her. I'm not sure exactly why, but he just said these weren't. Something about they could go down the street, because this is filmed in California, and they could just go down the street and buy something like this for $3, which I kind of didn't really get. So what? But I guess they were trying to say that it wasn't elevated It wasn't It wasn't elevated, and it
Well,
wasn't
you just
elevated
know, like, no
very-
matter what, she made tacos, so
Yeah,
that
that was
it was like automatically like, oh, she's gonna be the one going home.
because she just didn't have any. She was very weak. It's really embarrassing. So, Mr. Kebab stayed, Mr. Cheesecake Bite stayed, and this lady, Amanda, made tacos, which was a mistake. And even the Kansas City guy said, "Why did she make tacos for Arun? It's a mistake." So they all knew, everybody knew out there, if they know anything about Arun, don't make tacos unless you know what you're doing.
I would give the episode. I give it a B plus actually, or I give it a B because I just thought it was very
Basic.
generic of an episode. You know, for such an interesting and fun idea, we really didn't get to see very much creativity. We didn't get to see very much of people's dishes.
No.
Like, we didn't get to see anyone else's dishes practically.
We have this complaint every time, too, at the beginning. You only see the winners and the losers. You don't see anybody else's. And you know out of that group of anybody else's, except for the pumpkin risotto, which they were like ready to send him home immediately. You don't get to see anybody else's dishes, and it's frustrating because it would have been fun, and it would have probably proven Marco my point that most of those people don't go to the fair.
And it was frustrating too because they highlighted all the people who they showed later in the episode. So earlier on, you didn't even really get to see other people cook and what they were cooking. You know, they could have at least shown some of that instead of just highlighting the people they were already going to highlight, so you knew these are going to be the people they talk about. Like, it's just very, very...
Yeah, I gave it a B as well, and I just thought it was very basic, and maybe because it was the first episode where they're actually competing.
And I think that Dara would have thrived this season because she could have just...
wiped the floor with them.
No, she could have been saved every week because then she could screw up every week and then her region would be safe.
Well, since we live in Ohio, that's all I'll say. And that guy made that pumpkin risotto, and he lives in Columbus. He was an embarrassment. I mean, it's just stupid. I just can't believe it. Marco made that. He had to stand there and nurse it for 45 minutes. And because it's really hard to cook, and it has to be nursed until it gets done. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
And you're at a fair, and you've got 20 people in line waiting to be fed. If you've been to any fair, there's always some kind of line, and especially around mealtime. And they're not going to wait in line for some dum-dum to cook risotto. And who wants to go to a fair and eat risotto anyway? I mean, it's such a stupid thing. What a dum-dum.
Where are you going to eat it? On those gross picnic tables they have?
Yeah.
With the flies all over them and stuff.
And then go and ride a ride or play hit balloons with a dart or whatever. I mean, that's what I mean. I don't think... You're
gonna go pet a donkey after you eat your pumpkin risotto?
I mean, there were people. I remember one lady who was a mother of my son's classmate. She actually went to the county fair every year, and then she would go to state. She'd actually make a dish that would win, would take her to state, and then she'd compete with her county winning recipe. But that's a very rare. I mean, it's not. Everybody just doesn't go to the fair. They don't. And the only reason why we went, I mean, I had 2 sons in 4-H, so I went to a lot of fairs. And it's only because they had displays there. But we would never have gone to the fair. If I didn't have kids in 4-H, we probably hardly ever would have gone, unless it would have been to ride rides and get food. but it wouldn't have been all the time. So I just think, and Marco thinks so too, that hardly any of these people really go to the fair.
And I thought it would have been nice to see. I thought it would have been nice to see somebody try to elevate corn dogs, because I'd just like to see what would somebody do.
Or just corn. Anything with corn.
Safi, a corn dog doesn't have corn in it.
Well, it's made from corn, like flour.
Oh, God, Safi.
Cornmeal.
It doesn't have corn. It's not a corn dog. It's a hot dog with corn dog thing. Batter.
Yeah. And they could have, like, even for Columbus, that could have been like
They could have, like, deconstructed corn dogs where you just have pig parts all over the plate, you know, like pig. Because it's deconstructed. And so it's like, oh, that's what they want. It's elevated.
I wish they'd get off of the deconstruction. To me, that's just crap. And the guy who made the bites, he barely made it through. If it hadn't been for Taco Girl, who makes tacos for somebody who is... And I'd love to go to one of his restaurants. Apparently he has at least one in New Orleans. And do they have tacos there?
Yeah.
And what are they? I mean, I'd love to try one to see how perfect they are.
You can get them through Gold Belly, but they're pretty expensive.
No.
Overly expensive.
I'd like to at least see what it looked like.
I can show you.
Okay, we'll look at that later. So anyway, I gave it a B2, and because I thought it was pretty basic, and as usual, we have the same complaint every year. The first episodes, you don't see anybody else. They don't even show them.
Yeah, like they could just be all holograms,
Yeah,
and then the real people are just playing cards.
They only focus on the people who with the best dishes and the people with the worst ones. And they did even though the risotto guy
and like something
the
else.
Worst ones he had immunity by then. So.
Something else too is like, what did they pay that girl? You know,
what?
The girl who makes food that you pay what you can. What did the judges pay her?
I don't even know what she made.
What did they pay for her dish this week? Did they pay what they could?
Well, I think they showed her once, and it sounded like she was making a meal, and it probably would have been good. But I don't think she's been to any fairs either.
Well, it won't be 100%. It won't be 100% good because they're not giving 100% of the price to her. They're only, what are they going to give her? Is Gordon going to give her
an immunity pin,
a handkerchief or something, and say, "This is all I can give you. Sorry. Now, can I try your unknown dish and all the other unknown dishes out there?" I mean, that's another thing. How could they tell what is the best and worst dish if they don't actually taste them all?
And that's what I wonder. Do they go around and they just don't show it on camera? Because they did look at the risotto. Did they try the risotto?
Yeah.
Oh, well then, see, and it wasn't done.
They tried it, but it's like we didn't even get to see them taste everything or what everything was, which was irritating.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll be looking forward to the next week, and I'm not really sure I remember what they said they were doing next week.
Mystery box.
Oh, that's right. Their very first mystery box, which can be interesting. So, okay, so goodbye, everybody.
Bye.